Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Hundreds of students return to face-to-face classes the first time since the start of the pandemic. Cabinet to decide on contractor for Cornwall Regional Hospital rehabilitation project. And later in sports, West Indies women secure win over Pakistan in ODI in Karachi. I'm Giovanni Dennis and here are the details. For the first time since the pandemic, students from some 376 primary schools across the island returned to the physical classroom. But despite being given the approval to reopen today, at least one school says it is still not ready. Now we have team coverage of the first day of face-to-face classes, beginning with Shamela Pullen in St. Thomas.
Thank you. I am at the Alias Valley All-Aid School in St. Thomas. The school is one of several that is approved by the Ministry of Education for the reopening of face-to-face classes today. However, the school remains closed due to several challenges. TVJ News understands that this is not the only school in the parish that is approved but is not prepared to reopen. And we will have more in primetime news this evening at 7. Reporting from St. Thomas, I'm Shamela Pullen. It's back to you in studio.
Thanks, Shamela. Meanwhile, students in the corporate area also returned to physical classes. Here's Jamila Maitland.
So more than a dozen schools have reopened in the corporate area for face-to-face learning following the urgent call by parents, guardians and stakeholders in the Ministry of Education for the reopening of school safely. Now, earlier today we visited a series of schools and we saw parents and guardians anxiously carrying their children to school. Now, here at St. Annie's Primary School in West Kingston, learning is in high gear. Now, I want to be quiet as I go to the classroom where you see students are actually inside. Now, grades 1 to 3 are being facilitated today as the school practice a rotational type of learning, while grades 4 to 6 will come to school tomorrow. Now, we spoke to Principal Omar Thomas, who told us that even though the classes are being held right now, we still have virtual classes being held.
That's some good visuals right there. And the Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, is insisting that schools should place extra focus on students sitting exams. Now, the JTA president spoke with TVJ reporter O'Shane Masters, who now joins us live. O'Shane.
Thanks, Giovanni. Now, President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Winston Smith, says while there are a number of issues which are still affecting the sector, the association will lay those down at the moment to give full attention to face-to-face classes in these 376 primary institutions. Mr. Smith, who spoke with me this morning, says face-to-face classes are important to address issues relating to learning loss.
We can't use those issues, Ocean, to hold back from going face-to-face because our students are suffering. And ultimately, the country, Jamaica, land we love, will suffer. Because if we extrapolate things to say 10 years from now, when a child who is 12 years old should be entering high school in 10 years' time, that child will be 22 years old. What kind of a citizen will that child be if we are not able to give them the best educational opportunity?
Now, the JTA president is again calling for educators to give priority to students who will be sitting exit exams.
So grades 4, 5, and 6 at the primary, because we have PEP over a 3-year period for them, as well as grades 10 to 13 at the secondary level. I am not overly concerned about how the teachers will react or interact with our students because I believe in the competence, the professionalism, and the know-how in general of our teachers. And as good educators, we know that when we interact with our students coming back from any long or extended break, we will normally do a diagnostic test to assess their readiness for continued learning. And all teachers will be, I am sure, will embark on that pathway.
However, Mr. Smith is of the view that the diagnostic tests should not be given in the first week, as some students may not be able to attend physical classes, though their institutions were given the go-ahead. And Giovanni, we will have much more in primetime news at 7. For now, it's back to you.
All right, thanks so much for that coverage there, Shane. To other news now, heavy rains caused flooding in sections of Montego Bay, St. James at the weekend. Deputy Mayor of Montego Bay, Richard Vernon, says while the damage is not significant, he has some concerns. Here's Cody and Barrett.
Heavy rains wreaked havoc on downtown Montego Bay on the weekend. Deputy Mayor of Montego Bay, Richard Vernon, says sections of St. James Capital were blocked by debris. There was also a land slippage on King Street.
Those areas have been attended to. King Street has been cleared, but we haven't removed the debris as yet. We have cleared the area so vehicles can pass. And also at the St. Irwin Road, we have a blockage there close to the Fesco gas station in the vicinity of Portobello. So we have a number of areas that have been blocked, as I said before, by debris, but we are attending to them.
He says the water came from the hills and the limited capacity of the South Gully made the problem worse.
We actually went up where the catchment is for South Gully, and the water was right at the brim, right at the brim. So it is not the debris in South Gully so much as the capacity to carry the water coming down. So that is a problem, because when we visited the Type 5 area and the Creek Street area and other areas, it is not so much of heavy debris, even though debris is there. It is more about the water log and also the fact that the gully cannot carry the volume of water coming from the hills.
Mr. Vernon says there have been few reports of flooding, but he says the damage is not significant. At the same time, he says there are some concerns.
My fear is if we have overflowing of the North Gully, because what happened in 2017, it was it was very devastating, and if we have a repeat coupled with the pandemic, it's going to be tough. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed, so as to and hoping that the North Gully does not overflow its banks.
Cody and Barrett, TVJ News.
Still out west, work could soon resume on the Cornwall Regional Hospital in Montego Bay, but Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says this will depend on whether Cabinet grants approval to an overseas contractor. Technocrats say that contractor is able to carry out the much-needed rehabilitative work. O'Shane Masters reports.
The main building of the Cornwall Regional Hospital has been closed for rehabilitative work from 2018. And despite several timelines given, all of them have been missed. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says while the project has been ongoing for some time, numerous issues have been identified.
It's not solely because of, how we have managed the process. There's always room for improvement, but we have seen issues around project management, we have seen issues around variations, we have seen issues around just the diversion of resources, meaning people and otherwise, because of COVID. So the project has been a victim, unfortunately, of several variables.
But he says steps have now been taken to move the project forward in contracting an overseas-based firm. Dr. Tufton says that company will provide quality control for the project.
So in the past, we have had too many variations. And variations mean you award a contract for 50 million, you end up spending 100 million, which to my mind has been unacceptable for a number of reasons. Sometimes because of the way the project was costed. Okay, so sometimes it's not the contractor. It may have been just the way the other technical work was done. It's sometimes because of brownfield project, meaning that it's a whole building, and so you estimate that things cost certain things, and then when you move, you realize that more work has to be done. So for all those reasons, it has created several delays.
The health minister also sought to clarify why an overseas company was being used.
It's not a regular construction site, and we don't have experience in it. We have not built a hospital in Jamaica for 25 years, and so naturally there is a gap in terms of some of the local capacity.
He says the buck now stops with Cabinet.
We're about to award another contract for the second to last phase and to ask Cabinet to consider emergency contracting for the final phase, again, which is in keeping with what the Chamber has been calling for and the people of Montego Bay have been calling for. Again, I can't decide for the cabinet, so the cabinet will deliberate, and in their good judgment, I'm sure they'll make the best decision that is in keeping with what is good for the people of Montego Bay.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when we return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. Member of Parliament for St. Andrews South East, Julian Robinson, says the National Housing Trust, NHT's newest development in New Kingston, will be bought up by wealthy Jamaicans and investors, with most first-time home buyers squeezed out. The Ruth Venn Towers apartment complex, which is located in his constituency, came on the market a few days ago with 1- and 2-bedroom units going for between $27.7 and $37.7 million. Mr. Robinson says with those prices, the NHT is competing with developers at the high end of the market.
And unfortunately, what I believe is going to happen is that investors are going to be the ones who will snap up these units and end up turning around and renting them to the very persons who want to buy them. Because the reality, even if a couple came together and they accessed the NHT maximum at $6.5 million, and got 13 million, they would still need to borrow another 14 million to afford a 1-bedroom unit. The question is, how many people will have the level of disposable income to pay a mortgage of $140,000 a month?
Mr. Robinson says he's not suggesting the NHT offer the units that have already been built at a subsidized rate. However, he says the trust must seriously consider its mandate of helping first-time home buyers to afford homes and revise its strategy.
I just think NHT has to make a determination to use the majority of their funds, which is what the NHT was established for, in providing units at the middle to the lower end, where there's an unmet need of over 200,000 Jamaicans who want a first home. And they want units which are in the range of 7 million to 15 million. That's the price range that NHT has to deliver at. Now, you obviously can't do that in New Kingston because the value of real estate in New Kingston is much higher. So NHT has to use the funds at its disposal. It has $57 billion to spend this fiscal year to ensure that we build units at a price point that the majority of Jamaicans can afford.
To Trelawney we go as Falmouth prepares to welcome its first cruise ship. Mayor Colin Gager says the municipal corporation will be stepping up the pressure on the operators of the craft market in the town. The mayor says there are several areas of concern at the market that need to be addressed urgently before the arrival of the cruise ship on November 14.
There are some unsightly conditions surrounding that place. Of course, you must know that that place is in court because we are trying to retrieve that property so that we can make sure that it becomes a gem, there's a craft market within the town of Falmouth. There are many concerns around that section. And we are going to make sure that we do all of the drains, all of the bushing is done, everything is back in order to meet when the ship comes on the 14th.
In the meantime, the mayor says it is a race against time to get the town fully ready for the return of cruise.
We have the team that is there. We have people who really want the work and would want to go ahead right now, but we don't want to do it too early. Say, for example, the painting that will be done. We don't want to paint it too early and then it get all dirt and all that sort of thing is on it. So we are making sure that we do it in a timely manner. We know that we can accomplish because we know that this can be done.
He says a warden will also be hired to ensure that people do not improperly dispose of their garbage in the town. 12 more people have died from COVID-19. The death toll now stands at 2,287. Meanwhile, the country's positivity rate is now 5%. 65 new confirmed cases are reported in the last 24 hours from 1,346 tests. The overall case count is now 89,746. 224 people are hospitalized with the virus. 11 are in critical condition, while 23 are severely ill. In the meantime, 279 more people have recovered from COVID-19, increasing the overall recovery count to 59,318. And for the latest in the financial world, here's Cody and Barrett.
In business news, Jamaica is seeing an improvement in the number of mangoes being exported. For the April to August period, Jamaica sent 681,000 kilograms of East Indian and St. Julian mangoes to Canada, the UK, and the US. That was 53% more during the 2021 season compared to last year. The shipments were valued at $1.5 million, a 59% increase in earnings over last year. The Agriculture Ministry says the increase can be attributed to the resumption of export to the UK in April of this year, following a 7-year self-imposed ban on mango exports. It was aimed at preventing a permanent ban on mangoes and other soft fruits. And Wasinko Group Limited has reported a 13% increase in profits. For the 3 months ending September 30, 2021, its net profits amounted to $967 million from $851 million the prior year. The company also saw its highest revenue earnings in history, $9.2 billion. This is an increase of 14.1% above the $8.1 billion achieved in the corresponding quarter of the previous year. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
Now for the top regional and international stories with O'Shane Masters.
The Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, has approved $65 million of non-reimbursable financing to contribute to the sustainable economic development of northern Haiti. The Washington-based financial institution said that this new operation will increase its total investment in the Caracol Industrial Park to $263.5 million in fulfillment of the original commitment to finance the infrastructure required for the park to generate 20,000 jobs. By 2026, once the disbursements for the operation are completed, the IDB said the park will be the largest self-sustaining industrial park in Haiti. A cybersecurity research firm says foreign hackers have breached 9 organizations in the defense, energy, healthcare, technology, and education sectors. At least one of the organizations is in the US. Palo Alto Networks says the hackers stole passwords to gain long-term access to these organizations' networks. It's unclear who is responsible for the breach, but some of the attackers' tactics overlap with those used by a suspected Chinese hacking group. Officials from the National Security Agency and the US Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency are tracking the threat. And that's it for the top regional and international stories. I'm O'Shane Masters.
And we now head to a quick break. When we come back, Simon Preston will have the Midday Sports.
Welcome back. It's now time for Midday Sports. I'm Simon Preston. The West Indies women's cricket team have taken a 1-0 lead in their 3-match one-day international series against Pakistan after recording a 45-run victory in Karachi today. Batting first, the Caribbean side posted 253 for 8 off their 50 overs, with Deandra Dottin top scoring with a career-best 132. Her knock comprised 18 fours and 2 sixes. She also received support from countrywoman Hayley Matthews, who made 57. Captain Stefani Taylor made 6. Anam Amin took 5 for 35 for Pakistan women. In reply, Pakistan were restricted to 208 for 9 off their 50 overs. Alia Riaz top scored for the home side with 46. Hayley Matthews took 3 for 31 for the visitors, while Shakira Selman took 2 for 35. Anisa Mohammed and Kiana Joseph took a wicket each. Captain Taylor commended Dottin for her knock.
Well, it's always room for improvement. I guess when you look at the first 10 overs when we were batting, we didn't get a lot of singles, so I think that's something that we have to look at. I think all in all, I thought Deandra batted brilliantly to almost see the game home for us, and that's what we talk about. We talk about, you know, someone getting in and staying there until the end. So I thought that she did well to get us to a good, decent total.
Well, we all know that you love to bat. What was
The second ODI is slated for Thursday at the same venue. The Caribbean side is using this tour in preparation for the World Cup qualifiers, which is set to run from November 21 to December 18 in Zimbabwe. To football we go now, as despite no guarantee of hosting home fixtures or fans next season, Arnott Gardens have paid special attention to their surface and have made improvements to their field and lighting. General Manager of the club, Peter Telwell, is hoping this hard work will open the door to having games in the jungle.
We have a full staff still, stadium staff, and they take care of the field. We're hoping to at least get an opportunity to play some Premier League matches here, because I think this is good enough for football at that level.
Telwell also expanded on further plans for the club.
We're trying to find funding for a solar project, because the light bill is not sustainable. So we're trying to find ways to cut down on our light bill. We presently run a pump, a well, that takes a considerable amount of energy. So even though we're not using the floodlights, the stadium floodlights, we're still using up a lot of electricity during the days.
Arnott Gardens finished 9th in the shortened 2020-2021 season of the JPL, which saw most matches being played without spectators at the UAGFF Captain Horace Burrell Centre of Excellence. And finally this afternoon, reggae girl Tiffany Cameron returned from injury with a goal as her side FC Yor defeated DVTK 3-1 in the Hungarian top flight over the weekend. The 30-year-old forward, who came on in the 55th minute, scored 3 minutes later to record her 4th goal of the season in her 7th appearance. This is the first time Cameron was playing in 7 weeks after recovering from injury. The win keeps FC Yor in 2nd place as they now sit 3 points behind leaders Ferencváros. Cameron was a member of Jamaica's squad at the 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup in France. And that's the final whistle for now. For your midday sports report, I'm Simon Preston. Giovanni, it is over to you.
Thanks, Simon. Well, good news for the West Indies women, unlike their male counterparts. Indeed. And that's the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon.